Hi guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to get into ScotGEM. Disclaimer, this is just based on my own personal kind of understanding of the process and what I did to get an offer on the ScotGEM course. Everyone will be different, every year is different, every medical school is different. So there's a million different things that, could happen, but this is just going to give you an overall view of a few of the things that I did that I think helped me get an offer to study medicine on the ScotGEM course. So beginning with the basics, what is the ScotGEM course? The ScotGEM course is the Scottish Graduate Entry Medicine course. It's the only graduate entry medicine course in Scotland, and it is free for people who live in Scotland. I'm not sure about the rest of the UK, I'm not sure about Ireland and stuff, so just have a look on their website for the most up-to-date information on fees. The course is 4 years long and it has a strong base and focus on rural generalist medicine. And the reason it does this is because the course is funded by the Scottish Government with the aim of addressing the rural and remote healthcare staff shortage that is currently facing Scotland. And when they were looking at the future healthcare needs of the NHS in Scotland, they identified that there is an increasingly problematic shortage of rural generalists, of rural GPs, of remote GPs, of people who were prepared to work as a doctor in remote and rural healthcare environments. And so the Scottish Government undertook this initiative to fund this course to help address Scotland's future healthcare needs. And so the whole course is centrally focused around the concept of you becoming, potentially, a rural generalist or a rural GP. Now, disclaimer, you do not have to become a rural generalist or a rural GP if you take this course. This course gives you a medical degree like any other graduate medicine course in the UK. So you could do the course and decide, I absolutely hate rural medicine. There is no amount of money you could pay me to go and work in a rural setting. I'm going to go to central London and work in the most urban hospital in the UK. So, you don't have to do rural medicine. However, when you're applying, you do have to demonstrate that you have an understanding of rural medicine, that you know what kind of thing you're signing up to, and that you do have a genuine interest in this as a potential future career. Because again, they are choosing applicants who can fit and help address this healthcare shortage need. And so the primary thing that you want to be demonstrating in your application is that you understand rural medicine and that you're going to help bridge this gap. So without further ado, let's kind of get into things. So you'll be spending 4 years on the course, and the first year is based in St Andrews, and it's mainly focused around kind of gaining an understanding of the general science that is behind medicine. So let's talk about the actual course structure. This is important for your interviews. You must absolutely know everything about it. Having been interviewed by ScotGEM, I can tell you that they definitely will quiz you on your knowledge of the course. Obviously, that's common for all medical interviews, and it's a massive piece of advice. You need to know that course in and out, and you need to know exactly why that course fits your style of learning and why you would be a good addition to that kind of course structure. So first year, in your first year will be based in St Andrews, and in your first semester you'll be doing kind of the medical sciences and everything that underpins what you're going to be learning later. So you'll be getting a good understanding of the foundation of medical sciences so that you can kind of build up from there. They do case-based learning, so you'll be given a case, and then such as a sore throat, and you kind of have to work around all of the various aspects. You'll look into all of the different kind of sciences, everything that could relate to a sore throat, and you'll learn everything around that. And so it's a much more integrated way of learning, and you really are putting kind of the science of what you're learning into practice. Second year is where the rural immersion really begins. So you'll be spending between 12 and 24 weeks in a variety of different locations. Some of it is in the Highlands, some of it's in Dumfries, some of it's in Fife. There's kind of a whole range of places that you can be posted, and you will be very much immersed in that rural healthcare environment, doing work experience with your local GP in the local rural generalist hospital, that kind of thing. So St Andrews or ScotGEM is very much a kind of learning through doing kind of course. So the website currently states that in second year you'll be spending 1 day a week in the GP kind of surgery, and you'll be spending half a day a week in the kind of specialist healthcare environment. So be that the hospital or anything that's kind of more specialized. In the second year as well, you will be kind of based around 20 life scenarios of a patient, and this will really help you when you are a rural generalist, because these kind of are the cases that you'll see day in, day out, and it really helps build your knowledge. Third year is where the ScotGEM course really differs from all of the other graduate medicine courses, and it is a really good idea to talk about why you want to do this in your interview. In third year, you'll be on something that's called a longitudinal integrated clerkship. It's basically an apprenticeship where you will actually be put in a GP practice, and you will be based in that GP practice for most of the year. You will spend half the week consulting with patients. So you'll be right in there. It's like proper work experience, proper understanding. You'll have patients that you're consulting with, everything. And then you'll spend the other half of the week learning about the cases you've seen come up. So it is really getting you ready to be a rural GP or a rural generalist. You're seeing your own patients, you're getting a really good understanding of the day-to-day life, and then you're spending the remaining half of the week researching that so that you become an expert, so that you know the medicine. So it's properly kind of integrated learning there. You will also be taking part in a project called Agents for Change. I really recommend you research this in depth if you're looking to kind of apply to St Andrews. But Agents for Change essentially means you're going to identify current practices that could be improved, and then you'll work on how you could actually improve that in reality in the GP practice that you're in, or whatever place you kind of spot the flaw and you kind of work on making it a better place. Now, this is really important because, again, the course is structured around addressing Scotland's future healthcare needs, and so they need people who are dynamic, who can kind of spot inefficiencies and who can make them into positive changes that will help push Scotland into the modern world and address their future healthcare needs. So Agents for Change is something really important that you want to look up. Fourth year, and it's worth saying as well that first and second year is kind of overseen by St Andrews, and third and fourth year are overseen by Dundee. Fourth year, you're kind of going back to Dundee. Most of the students are based in Dundee. You may be based in other places, but you're going back into those hospital environments, and you're getting more kind of tertiary hospital experience, secondary hospital experience in much more kind of specialist environments that you wouldn't normally see in rural practice. And that's to get you ready for when you begin your year one as a foundation doctor. And so fourth year looks quite similar to a lot of the other graduate programs in the UK. So that is kind of the overall structure of your course, and it is also worth noting that for Scottish students it's definitely free. Home students and Irish students, it's worth checking whether it's going to be free. And you can receive, currently it's a £4,000 bursary every year for return of service. So that's every year you receive the bursary, you then have to do 1 year in Scotland, working in Scotland. And so it begins from your foundation years currently. It obviously is subject to change, but essentially you can take out the bursary the whole 4 years, and then you'd have to do your 2 foundation years in Scotland and work a further 2 years in Scotland, and then you will have returned your service. So it's worth noting that ScotGEM is definitely the most financially supportive graduate program in the UK. If you are accepted onto the program, you can really get through it with minimal debt, especially in light of the fact that when you are living in these kind of rural settings or Dundee, the cost of living is much lower than it would be in other places of the UK, such as London or Cambridge or Oxford. So it's worth noting that the cost of living is a bit lower, and therefore, although £4,000 a year might not be enough, it will cover a substantial share of your living costs. So now let's move on to how you can actually get in now that we have an understanding of the course. The way in which students are selected is pretty ruthless, in my opinion. It is one of the most aptitude test-based acceptance systems I've ever seen, and your GAMSAT score will basically be fundamental in determining whether or not you get a place on the course. So to get into ScotGEM, you have to have the appropriate academic background. Now that means you have to have a 2-1 or higher in your undergraduate degree, and your undergraduate degree can be from any kind of background. In addition to that, you have to have a B in A-level chemistry or the equivalent in like Highers or university level chemistry, and you have to have GCSE maths with a grade B or the equivalent such as Nat 5, standard grades, so on and so forth. So you have to meet those minimum entry requirements, and then in addition to that, you also have to have a positive academic reference. So this is a reference from any kind of university teacher or anyone who's known you in like an academic capacity from the last 3 years. If you haven't been in academia for the last 3 years, look it up on the website. There's another number of other people who can give you a reference. You have to have the academic entry requirements, you have to have the reference, and then you have to have the GAMSAT, the dreaded GAMSAT. So the way that ScotGEM do GAMSAT is brutal. They will rank every single applicant who applies based on their GAMSAT score and invite them to interview accordingly. So in terms of figures, in 2022, they received 396 applications, of which they invited 182 to interview for 70 spaces. Now, they say their GAMSAT cutoff is 57 in 2022, with no section lower than 50. However, it's worth noting that GAMSAT cutoff does not equal place. And I think this is really important for the majority of universities. Just because you've reached the cutoff doesn't mean you're going to get in. The higher you've got, the more likely you are to get in. It's not like when you reach interview, they then disregard your GAMSAT score. Your GAMSAT score will form an integral part of your application ranking, even beyond the interview. And so the better you do on the GAMSAT, the more of a chance there is that you're going to get in. St Andrews weight all sections of the GAMSATs equally, which is rare for graduate universities in the UK. So that's one thing that's good. If you're from a non-science background, you're worried about the science, they will rank all 3 sections equally, or at least they did in 2022. So let's talk about how you can actually get into St Andrews based on that information. Okay, so let's talk about statistics on GAMSAT scores for St Andrews. So we know that in terms of rankings, they're going to rank you based on highest to lowest and invite you to interview accordingly. Now, St Andrews Freedom of Information request means that they have actually released different years, different cycles. So we'll talk about what they did in the 2020, 2021 cycles. This is for 2021 entry. The average GAMSAT score applicant, all 3 sections weighted equally, the average applicant scored 57. Now, the average score of those invited to interview was 59, and the average score of those receiving an offer was 60. So that is worth noting that to receive an offer, the average GAMSAT score was 60. In 2019, for 2020 entry, the average person getting an offer was 58 versus the average applicant, which is 56. And the same with 2018 for 2019 entry, the average successful applicant had a score of 61, whereas the average applicant applying had a score of 58. So your GAMSAT score does massively influence whether or not you get an offer. However, it's worth noting that some people scored very highly, such as the highest applicant score in 2020 for 2021 entry was 79, but the highest GAMSAT score of a successful applicant was 73. So that tells us that just because you score highly on the GAMSAT doesn't mean that you will get in. And that is because the interview process is pretty tough and pretty rigorous. So let's talk about the personal statement, the additional supplementary questionnaire, and then the interview process. So once you have done the GAMSAT, you will also be asked to do your personal statement when you apply and the additional supplementary questionnaire. In your personal statement, although you are applying to multiple graduate courses most likely, I would still recommend referencing work experience that is relevant. And this is really important because they're looking for future graduate medics who have an understanding of rural and remote medicine. It's the rural and remote medicine course. And so you need to demonstrate in your personal statement that you do have that understanding. Now, you can't make your personal statement all rural and remote medicine because you're applying to other places. I mean, you can if you want, but some people don't want to do that because they're applying to other places who don't have this specialist focus. And so that's why St Andrews or ScotGEM provide you this additional supplementary questionnaire. And this additional supplementary questionnaire gives you space to write about why you're choosing rural medicine, what it is that interests you about the ScotGEM course in specific, and why you're appropriate for the course. So you get 3 questions and you get 1,000 characters on each. I'm going to read you out my answers that helped me gain an offer. So the first question is, why medicine? What experiences have led you to apply to study medicine, and why do you believe that this is a good career choice for you? My response was, first-hand experience taught me that an excellent doctor dramatically improves a patient's quality of life. Subsequently, I want to recreate this triumph as a doctor for others. I will be a successful doctor as I am a strong communicator who understands that listening to and validating patients' concern is crucial to good practice. This is a skill I saw modelled when shadowing my local GP. This is a suitable career for me because of my ability to diffuse conflict and maintain composure in a crisis. I developed these skills as a carer for a young boy. Some additional detail on his condition, which I'm not going to put on the internet. I bring this strength to insert my local hospital maternity care unit, where I volunteer weekly. At this hospital, I shadowed consultants, nurses, and junior doctors, which developed my medical aptitude and affirmed that medicine is the most fulfilling career choice. At the maternity care unit, there is no opportunity to follow patients beyond their stay. I value this, which led me to explore rural medicine. So in that first one, you genuinely are just talking about why medicine in addition to your personal statement. And you're also, I would recommend putting in a little bit about why rural medicine. However, the other questions will ask you this. So the second question is, why you? What makes you a strong candidate for the ScotGEM course as opposed to other medicine courses? I responded, I'm a strong candidate as I'm committed to a career in rural medicine. By attending insert place, rural work experience event, I affirmed that this is the right career trajectory. Coming from a background of rural healthcare providers, exposure gave me an intimate knowledge of the duties of rural medics. The benefits of developing rapport with patients, greater continuity of care, and idyllic surroundings all appeal to me. Rural medicine offers an intellectually stimulating environment where I can thrive under greater responsibility. I possess the innovative mindset needed to excel in the Agents for Change component and wider rural medicine. My role as member of the Scottish Youth Parliament and president of the LSESU Pride Alliance facilitated me to formulate critical commentaries and implement proactive change, such as specialised mental health support for LGBTQ+ students. Therefore, I resonate with ScotGEM's goal to produce dynamic doctors who are adaptable to best serve needs. Final question on their additional supplementary questionnaire. Why ScotGEM? What specific aspect of the ScotGEM program has attracted you to apply, and why? I responded, the focus on rural general medicine aligns with my prospect of becoming a rural generalist. The tailored nature of the course creates an exclusive learning opportunities such as the longitudinal integrated clerkship. The departure from traditional medicine teaching in favour of immersive year-long experience makes the optimal foundations for my career by seamlessly integrating first-hand work experience along with studying. This specialised study in the most common patient scenarios will develop my medical acumen and improve my ability to prioritise and treat patients effectively. My undergraduate degree in social policy at LSE ingrained in me the importance of prevention in health policy. Therefore, the dedication to public health and quality improvement in the curriculum appeals to me. Another attraction was the 4-year-long graduate course and the smaller cohort of graduate-only entrants, enabling a collaborative environment that fosters strong rapport with potential future colleagues. So that's what I said in response. You can really say anything, provided you demonstrate that you are interested in rural medicine and you back it up with examples. If you do not have examples of rural medicine work experience, you will unlikely you will be unlikely to get into the course. If you cannot demonstrate that you fully understand what you're getting yourself into, you're unlikely to get into the course. And if you think that they've asked you a lot of questions on it in the supplementary questionnaire, wait till you get to the interviews. I have never been pressed so hard on rural medicine in my life as in that interview. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read my personal statement so that you get an understanding of how much rural medicine you actually have to put into your personal statement. So, you've met the academic requirements, you have the positive personal statement, you have the positive reference, you've done your supplementary questionnaire, and you've made the GAMSAT cutoff. Congratulations, you will be invited to interview. Interviewing at St Andrews, I'm not going to lie to you, was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever had. They probe you a lot, but their questions don't give you very much to say. So really practice elaborating off a very small amount of information, because they will just sit there in silence, and you can either choose to stop talking or after 30 seconds, or you can try and push yourself to talk for 2 or 3 minutes. Personally, I tried to push myself to talk, but at some point I literally just did not have anything else to say, and I didn't want to just waffle aimlessly, so I would just leave it. But yeah, when you're preparing for interviews, I'd say firstly, really practice talking about the course, because they're going to ask you about the course. This is not, unique to St Andrews. I'm not giving away stuff. Every single graduate medicine course will ask you in extensive detail about why their course, exactly what you're doing in every year, exactly why you like their traditional learning, their case-based learning, their problem-based learning, exactly, the specifics of the course. Additionally, you are going to be pushed on why you want to do rural medicine. It is a rural medicine course. This should not come as a shock to you. Please have that answer thoroughly prepared. When you're doing the interview preparation with your friends and your family, kind of ask the classic why medicine, why rural medicine questions, and then probe. So when you're finished your response, get your family members to say, and why, and why, and why, and 3, 4, 5 times, because it's that bad in the interview. Obviously, they're changing it up a lot depending on whether it's COVID or whether it's not COVID. So they might go back to what they used to do, I believe, which is they just put you in the MMI circuit at Dundee, but there's no real way of knowing. The final thing I would say is that just because you may be interviewing online doesn't mean they're not going to ask you the kind of questions that you would think they wouldn't ask you online. So obviously I'm not going to get into the specifics of the questions, but I would assume that in an online interview, they wouldn't ask me to, explain how to tie a shoelace to a blind person. That kind of skill, there's other ways to test for it online. So I will leave it at that, but I would give it some practice if I were you. But yes, that's it overall. So to summarize, how do you get into St Andrews? You meet their academic cutoffs, and then you smash the GAMSAT so that you have the interview score necessary. And then you demonstrate clearly and unequivocally that you understand the reality of rural medicine and that you are interested in it as a future career. That is a summary of how you get in. Good luck. If you have any questions at all, leave them on this video and I will get back to you as soon as possible.